Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Coming up in the newscast, Cocoa Peace killer Roshane Barnett sentenced to life in prison. 1 man dead and 5 others injured following shooting incident in St. Anne. Chinese man killed in business establishment in Hanover. Zones of special operations extended in 7 communities. Employee of popular hotel in Ocho Rios arrested for alleged buggering of foreign national. In business, Jamaica earns more from exports for first half of the year. In the region, Grenada moving to declare October 19 a public holiday. Further overseas, Liz Truss resigns as UK's Prime Minister. And in sports, Reggae Boys captain Andre Blake wins historic 3rd Goalkeeper of the Year award. Now for the news in detail. The Cocoa Peace killer, Roshane Barnett, the man who pleaded guilty to murdering his cousin and her 4 children in Cocoa Peace, Clarendon, has been sentenced to life in prison. He will be eligible for parole after serving 16 years and 8 months. He was sentenced on Thursday in the Supreme Court by presiding Judge Justice Leighton Pusey. Kimisha Wright and her 4 children, 15-year-old Kimanda Smith, a 12-year-old Sharalee Smith, 5-year-old Rafaela Smith, and 23-month-old Kishawn Henry Jr. were brutally stabbed to death on June 21. Barnett, who was living with Wright and her children, fled the crime scene and later picked up in Warsop, Trelawney the following day during a targeted operation by the police. He later gave a caution statement to the police confessing to murdering Wright and her children. On his early appearances in court, Barnett pleaded guilty to the 5 counts of murder. Lead prosecutor Andrea Martin Swaby had revealed chilling details outlined by Barnett in his caution statement. Barnett stated that one night he was at Kimisha's home and 2 men came, ordered items, and he served them. He said Wright, who was present, grabbed the money he collected from the men and told him not to serve any of her customers. He said she did this in the presence of the customers and he felt disrespected. He added that she also flashed water in his face. He stated that ever since that incident, Kimisha's and her children's attitudes changed towards him. Barnett went further. He said during the night of Monday, June 20, at approximately midnight, he was at home and Kimisha told him to lock up. He told her that he heard a vehicle outside. She looked and said she saw nothing. Barnett said he looked at her and she looked back at him as if she saw that he was, quote, preying her, end quote. According to Barnett, Wright made after something on the dresser, but he didn't see what it was. He said that he, quote, prayed in the heavens that it was a knife or scissors, end quote. Barnett disclosed that he had his knife on him and he stabbed her multiple times. He said 2 of the children rushed to the dresser and started throwing things at him. He said, again, he didn't see what it was, but grabbed both of the children and stabbed them. The eldest child grabbed a pair of scissors and he went after her and she fell and he stabbed her. He said when everybody was dead, he changed off and disposed of the shorts he was wearing as well as the knife. The findings of the post-mortem was also revealed in court. Kimisha Wright received 48 incised wounds in the region of her neck, chest, abdomen, and limbs. Cause of death is hemorrhage and shock and multiple sharp force injuries. 23-month-old Kishawn Henry Jr. had 11 incised wounds, inclusive of a wound to the neck, which the doctor described as a cut-throat injury. 15-year-old Kimanda Smith had 9 incised wounds and 4 stab wounds. 12-year-old Sharalee Smith had 22 incised wounds and 2 scratches, with a cut-throat wound to the neck. 5-year-old Rafaela Smith had 5 incised wounds and a gaping wound to the upper anterior neck. It was also read out in court that a cousin said he saw Barnett with a knife and Barnett told him, quote, "Me go warn my brother out at Chapelton, say me I go kill some people tonight, so him for look out I'm I," end quote. Director of Public Prosecution, Paula Llewellyn, describes Barnett's actions as diabolical. She says her office believes the crimes Barnett confessed to were some of the worst she has seen in Jamaica. The Zones of Special Operations, ZOSOs, has been extended in 7 communities for a further 60 days. The measure underway in Mount Salem and Norwood St. James, Denham Town, Greenwich Town, August Town and Parade Gardens in Kingston and St. Andrew, and in Savannah Lamar Westmoreland had been scheduled to expire on October 22. Speaking in the House of Representatives on Wednesday, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang said the government will increase surveillance within these communities to provide an additional layer of safety and security for the residents. He said in coming months, the government will be undertaking an in-depth assessment of the entire ZOSO program. This will underpin future adjustments to the zones, which will include the widening of the boundaries of some existing ZOSOs. Dr. Chang sought to assure residents of these communities that, quote, the government is sensitive to the level of violence, informality, and social deterioration, end quote, that has taken hold in their communities over the years. He said the Zone of Special Operations is just one of the tools being utilized to provide increased safety and security to the communities. The National Security Minister remained adamant that the government is, quote, unapologetic about utilizing all available security measures and tools to safeguard the lives and livelihood of the people of Jamaica, end quote. 1 man is dead and 5 others injured following a shooting incident in Orange Hill, Brownstown in St. Anne on Wednesday. Dead is 22-year-old Ricardo Campbell of the community. It is reported that the group of men were gathered at a spot in the community having drinks when 2 unknown assailants drove up in a black Toyota Voxy and opened fire on the group before escaping. Deputy Superintendent of Police Ryan Gale said the police received reports of the incident around 12:15 p.m. and responded. With the assistance from community members, the injured persons were rushed to hospital where Campbell died and the others admitted in serious but stable condition. In the meantime, the police have reported that 1 man is in police custody who they believe is linked to the shooting. He was picked up around 1:45 p.m. when the police intercepted a vehicle with 3 other men aboard. The other men escaped on foot. And a Chinese businessman was killed in his business establishment in Orange Bay, Hanover, Wednesday afternoon. The police say at approximately 4:30, He Jing, also known as Archie, was in his supermarket on Orange Bay Plaza when he was shot and robbed by masked men. The man reportedly took over operations of the business from another less than 2 weeks ago. The Chinese national reportedly moved to Hanover recently. He operated a business on Barnett Street in Montego Bay, St. James before taking over the Green Island supermarket. A St. Anne woman is battling for life in hospital after being hit by a car in Bamboo in the parish Wednesday afternoon. Preliminary reports state that the woman, who is a resident of the area, was hit while crossing the roadway when the driver of a motorcar overtook a truck and mowed her down. Police say the woman, who is believed to have lost both legs in the incident, was rushed to hospital around 3 p.m. An alleged eyewitness says the motor truck had stopped to allow the woman to cross the street when the driver of the car sped around the truck, hitting her. The driver of the vehicle is now in police custody after he was attacked by an angry mob that it is alleged have attempted to set his vehicle ablaze. Police were said to be on the scene as residents also threatened to block the roads. 38-year-old Rose Beecher died Tuesday night in hospital from burns she received in the house fire, which also killed her daughter. The incident occurred in Deanpen Highgate, St. Mary. The fire brigade responded to the call at 3:35 a.m. The fire reportedly started after a Molotov cocktail was thrown through a window of the house, and 1 person has since been taken into custody. The police are treating the incident as a case of suspected arson. 3 other persons who received burns during the fire remain in hospital. DSP Francis, acting commander of the St. Mary Police Division, notes that the police have visited the family and offered grief counseling. Retired U.S. Army officer Emily Lee Tracy, who was arrested last week in connection with the fatal shooting of a man in Buff Bay, Portland, has been charged with murder. The 45-year-old, who resides in Florida, was charged on the weekend for the murder of 43-year-old Craig Sr., a resident of Woodstock Heights, Buff Bay. Mr. Sr. was shot dead in front of his wife on Sunday, October 9. According to reports, Mr. Sr. was at home with his wife and daughter when the retired soldier drove up to the yard and called out his wife. Mr. Sr.'s wife went to the gate and told him to leave. This led to a heated argument between the two. Mr. Sr. intervened and confronted the American about his presence at the home. It is alleged that the American pulled a firearm and shot Mr. Sr. in the abdomen. Tracy was later arrested in St. Mary. A police constable and two Jamaica Public Service JPS contractors who were arrested last week in connection with the sexual assault of a woman in Manchester have been charged. The three were charged on the weekend with rape and grievous sexual assault. It's reported that the JPS contractors were conducting a disconnection exercise in the Kingsland district on October 11 when they discovered an illegal connection at the home of the 25-year-old woman. They reportedly demanded money, but the woman said she had no cash. They then allegedly demanded sex. The woman resisted and was reportedly sexually assaulted by the constable and the JPS contractors. The matter was later reported to the police and the three taken into custody. Meanwhile, an employee of a popular hotel in Oteria, St. Anne, has been arrested for the alleged sexual assault and buggering of a foreign national. 31-year-old Ricky Richards of Mansfield Heights in Oteria, St. Anne, is accused of assaulting a 19-year-old woman from Catford in London, UK, who was a guest at the resort. The woman is said to have Down's syndrome. It is understood that the two became acquaintances subsequent to her arrival in Jamaica on October 5. Reports are that the woman and some relatives went to the pool at the hotel Sunday afternoon when the suspect visited her. He made arrangements for her to meet him in the female bathroom near the entertainment booth. The suspect reportedly buggered the girl in the bathroom. A report was made to the police and the woman transported to the hospital where she was examined. The suspect was later pointed out and subsequently arrested by the St. Anne's Bay police. Police have apprehended a suspect in connection with the shooting death of a woman and the injuring of her 9-year-old son in Spanish Town last Friday. The deceased has been identified as 24-year-old Alicia Allwood of Mansfield Avenue in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Following initial investigations into the incident, police quickly identified and detained a suspect the following day. The suspect was picked up in Spanish Town where he lives. It was reported that about 7:45 p.m. last Friday, residents heard explosions and summoned the police. Upon their arrival, Allwood was found in a pool of blood and her son found suffering from gunshot wounds. Allwood was pronounced dead at hospital where her son was admitted. Allwood, who was before the courts for breaches of the Firearms Act, was reportedly out on bail at the time of her death. 5 people have reportedly come forward with claims that they paid school principal Sulin Ward Brown over $4 million for lands near Clifton Bernard Lodge, St. Catherine. One complainant allegedly gave her $2.4 million for a plot in the controversial development. Others claim they paid $800,000 and $600,000 respectively. The police are seeking information from the public as they continue their probe of illegal land sales allegedly linked to the Klansman gang. Ward Brown is charged with breaches of the Proceeds of Crime Act, the Law Reform Fraudulent Transactions Special Provisions Act, and conspiracy to defraud. Son of incarcerated crime boss Joel Andem, Tamoya Andem, was found not guilty of drug charges in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court on Wednesday. His co-accused, Zidan Douglas, was also found not guilty. The two were charged with possession, dealing, and trafficking ganja following an incident last year. The prosecution led evidence that on May 13, 2021, Andem and Douglas were passengers in a motorcar that was stopped along Darramore Road, St. Andrew, after the police observed a traffic breach by the driver. The police told the court that on approaching the car, there was a strong odor of ganja coming from the vehicle. As a result, a search was conducted. The search revealed 1 bag of ganja in the back seat of the car and 6 other bags in the trunk. The total weight of the ganja amounted to more than 100 pounds. Both men denied knowing that ganja was in the car and, in their defense, claimed that they had just been picked up by the driver and another passenger. This other passenger and the driver had pleaded guilty to the ganja before the start of the trial. Parish Judge Venice Blackstock Murray found Andem and Douglas not guilty of breaching the Dangerous Drugs Act. The parish judge said she found that the principal officer involved in the case had been discredited after cross-examination by King's Counsel Peter Champagny and Javed Grant, who appeared for Andem and Douglas respectively. The judge also noted that the smell of ganja alone was not sufficient in law to find both men guilty. The Integrity Commission has described actions of Member of Parliament J.C. Hutchinson as improper and irregular. The entity says the Northwestern St. Elizabeth MP engaged in nepotism by influencing the award of a contract to a company owned by his son. The Commission argues that J.C. Hutchinson directly or seemingly recommended that the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation award a contract to ProStar Electrical and Construction. The company was to supply electrical material and install them at the Lacovia Training Center and Lacovia Community Center, both of which are located in Mr. Hutchinson's constituency. It was later revealed that Jason Hutchinson, the son of the MP, is the proprietor of ProStar. Between March and August 2018, ProStar received more than $713,000. The Integrity Commission's report indicates that J.C. Hutchinson deliberately attempted to divorce himself from the process of awarding the contract to ProStar when he suggested the coordinator of the Constituency Development Fund (CDF) in the constituency acted without his knowledge. However, a senior CDF official said the comment was misleading as it is not in keeping with the process of executing CDF projects. The Integrity Commission concludes that the contract to ProStar was a conflict of interest considering Mr. Hutchinson's son owned the entity. It deems J.C. Hutchinson's actions as improper and irregular given his role as a public servant. The Integrity Commission has recommended that MPs do not put forward friends or family members for contracts without disclosing the nature of the relationship. If the relationship is disclosed, the government agencies should conduct an independent and objective due diligence exercise. The Commission also recommends that MPs do not operate constituency offices within community centers or similar spaces. Steertown Academy in St. Anne is under investigation by the Education Ministry for alleged academic misconduct in this year's sitting of the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate (CSEC) exams. Reports are that some students were given copies of exam papers a day before sitting and that teachers were provided with the exam questions to prep students in select subjects. The alleged breach reportedly involved day school and evening school students, some of whom had not been recommended to sit the exams. It is also alleged that a non-academic staffer invigilated one of the exams. Sources at the school have accused the senior staffer of orchestrating the alleged violation. According to one source, the breaches were committed in geography, mathematics, chemistry, physics, biology, social studies, and food and nutrition. The source says, quote, "Those papers were opened on the night before the exams. They were given to the students and the students were able to copy the papers, practice them till in the morning." End quote. Principal Sharn Mungal, who did not confirm the launch of an investigation but acknowledged that questions were being asked, has said there is no truth to reports of irregularities. However, another source claims that a series of revision classes was organized in which teachers were given a set of questions on the pretext that it was from an insider. Students who were given the exam paper had reportedly contacted their teachers for help with the questions. According to both sources, some teachers were not aware that they were being given the actual exam questions. It is alleged that some teachers had confessed in the staff room to getting the papers before the exam. Both sources say the school did not have a record of prolific straight A profile scores and that the performance in some of the flagged exams lagged this year's. One says, quote, "The irony is that the students are not the brightest of students, so that brings things into question," end quote. The principal, however, is maintaining that Stairtown Academy had made a deliberate thrust, including workshops and weekend online classes to improve student scores. He is insistent that the improved performance did not result from cheating. In business, oil prices rose on Wednesday as caution over tightening supply countered the negative impact of uncertain demand and news that the United States will release more crude from its reserves. Brent crude futures for December settlement ended up $2.38 to $92.41 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude ended at $85.85. 55 cents rather, a barrel, up $2.73. Also, Jamaica earned more from exports for the first half of the year. For the January to June period, total exports were valued at more than $800 million US. And still in business, the inflation rate for the 12 months up to September was at a 12-month low of 9.3%. Point-to-point inflation up to August was 10.2%. This appears to be reflecting a downward trend in price movements as the Bank of Jamaica increased the policy interest rate to sway the direction of market rates. At the Statistical Institute of Jamaica's quarterly press briefing on Tuesday, Director General Carol Coy explained that the inflation rate was mainly due to increases in the index of several divisions, including food and non-alcoholic beverages, which went up by 10.5%. Housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels increased by 8.5%, and restaurants and accommodation services increased by 19.4%. In the region, the government of Grenada is moving forward with its plans to declare October 19 a public holiday, commemorating the killings of former Prime Minister Maurice Bishop and several members of his cabinet in 1983. Bishop, along with several civilians, was killed following a palace coup orchestrated by his deputy, Bernard Cord, at Fort Rupert that was renamed Fort George. The execution of Bishop and the ensuing turmoil were used as justification by the U.S. and Caribbean countries to militarily intervene in an operation called Urgent Fury. Speaking at a flag-raising and wreath-laying ceremony where the killings took place, Grenada Culture Minister Ron Redhead lamented that the country will only be able to move on if the events of 1983 are addressed. The minister, whose father was a member of the militia, also noted that Grenada will be making an official request to the United States and the United Kingdom to provide factual information surrounding the bodies of Bishop and others. Maurice Bishop took power in 1979 following the ousting of Prime Minister Eric Jerry and held office until his death in 1983. And on the international scene, Liz Truss has resigned as UK's Prime Minister. She will step down after a week-long emergency contest to find her successor. Her resignation follows a turbulent 45 days in office during which Truss's mini-budget crashed the markets. She lost 2 key ministers and shed the confidence of almost all her own MPs. Truss said she had entered office with, quote, a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit, end quote. She added that she recognizes that given the situation, she cannot deliver the mandate on which she was elected by the Conservative Party and had therefore spoken to the King to notify him that she is resigning as leader of the party. Opposition parties called for an immediate general election, saying the Conservatives had no mandate to govern. The party is now due to complete a leadership election within the next week, faster than the usual 2-month period. Graham Brady, the Conservative politician that is in charge of leadership votes and reshuffles, said he is now looking at how the vote could include Conservative MPs and the wider party members. Liz Truss is the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history. And in sports, Reggae Boys captain Andre Blake has won a historic third Major League Soccer MLS Goalkeeper of the Year award. He is the first player to cop the honor on 3 separate occasions. The Philadelphia Union custodian was announced as the winner of the award on Wednesday after another stellar year between the goal posts. Blake currently leads the MLS goalkeeper charts in shutouts with 15 clean sheets and has been a mainstay in the Philadelphia Union side starting all of their 34 matches. It's the second award in as many months for the Jamaican who won Philadelphia's John Wanamaker Athletic Award last month. The 31-year-old first won the Goalkeeper of the Year in 2016 and again in 2020 and is one of the overall favorites to win the MLS MVP of the Year. And Argentina captain Lionel Messi has named defending champions Brazil and France as favorites to win World Cup in Qatar. He adds that both teams have a core group of footballers that have played together for a long time. Messi says football giants such as Brazil, France, Germany, Spain, and England are usually marked as favorites to win the World Cup, but he believes Brazil and France are outright title contenders for the November 20 to December 18, 2022 tournament. The Argentina captain did not mention his own team as favorites despite the South American-based side being unbeaten in 35 matches. In addition, Argentina defeated Brazil in the final of Copa America last year. Argentina is slated to face the United Arab Emirates in November in their final warm-up match before heading to the World Cup. They will play their opening Group C game against Saudi Arabia on November 22. And that's it for the news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.